LJ is found safe and sound. Jordan is not gonna be a mommy. And Mia and Robyn are heading to the motherland. What's good, y'all? It's your good sis Erica Vane coming to you right here on Erica Vane TV with another The Best Man Final Chapters videos. After a long wait, I'm so sorry. In this video, I'm finally going to break down chapter 8 and discuss the finale of this limited series. That shouldn't be a limited series, but we're gonna talk about that as well in this video. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss out. Well, actually, yeah, so you don't miss out, because I actually want to do a whole review of the entire Best Man story, because again, this is unfinished. Not us ending the series, us ending the story with more unfinished business, a la Harper's book, because that's what it's given. Hit the subscribe button. In addition to The Best Man, I'm also breaking down all the latest, greatest, and hottest in television and film, specifically for us, but across really great television shows, whoever's in it. So hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on my conversations around television and film, because I'm your good sis you love to talk TV with. And again, in this video, we're going to talk about chapter 8. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. I am struggling to figure out how I wanted to actually structure this breakdown, but I think I'm just going to go in order of like how things happen and discuss it. Because not for nothing, this episode was like okay at best. I feel like they rushed to the end to finish a bunch of things, and again, we're still not finished. And overall, I struggle with the fact that too many characters arrived at the end exactly where they were at the beginning. Harper has not changed, only his bank account has. Jordan has not changed. Like, those two in particular, and how they actually ended this series, this story in this whole particular world, was the most disappointing of all. Like, yes, I'm excited that Lance actually found Jesus and got his mind right when it came to his son, but also, is he really any different than he was in the first Best Man film? I'll wait. And I get it, not everybody changes, not everybody evolves, but now we're at 3 of like the core 5 and 6, and this percentage is getting really raggedy, because for the most part, when we see television and film and we see stories, we're watching the story of characters being presented with conflict or with struggle or with drama that ultimately changes them. So part of me at the end of, or when I stopped watching this or got to the end of this particular episode, I was just left with this feeling of like, well, why did I need to watch this? Aside from the fact that I think that the series did a really great job of just showing fly black people being regular, doing regular things, and I think that we need more media that allows us to just be, and we can just watch that without it having to be extraordinary Negroes doing this or ridiculously villainous people doing that. Like, I think that The Best Man did a really great job of showing some well-to-do black people living. That's it. That's all. It wasn't too much extra. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. It was just what it was. But again, I just really struggle with the fact that too many characters arrived at the end exactly where they started, which also makes me be like, well, why the hell did I need to know their damn story to begin with? Because it's not enough transformations for me, and I got a problem with it. But this episode starts off with a visit to the cemetery for Lance, because he's wondering what would Mia do, and this is their 20th anniversary. LJ has been missing because he's been set tripping in the home for quite a while and could not accept LJ's identity, so they have gone missing, as they should. Definitely glad that they are healthy and safe and protected. In this episode, we get we get to meet a couple of other people who are in LJ's life that has helped them really get to a place of acceptance and walk into the spaces they are with their identity and with peace around it and celebration around it, and not a bunch of trepidation and stress and shame. So we get to meet the friend Lex, who is very protective and is not willing to actually reveal to Lance and Jordan when they come to the house to visit like where LJ is, even though I don't know if they actually know at that given point. But like once we arrive at the church, because we also get to meet this very progressive pastor who creates a safe haven for people like Lex and LJ who might be experiencing some of the things. Well, Lex isn't experiencing those things because clearly Lex's parents had sense. Lex's parents is not giving Lance at all. But for people like LJ who are experiencing the things that they're experiencing at home, specifically when they speak up about their identity, they speak up about the life that they want to live, and they're not met with support and love when they do so, which is bomb. So at this church, once they actually get there and Lance is able to see that, okay, LJ is fine, LJ takes it as a moment to really basically lay things out on the line. And thank God that Lance actually visited the cemetery and has had a change of heart and is literally praying completely different before this actually happens. Because if that didn't happen, or if he hadn't come to some kind of like, again, came to Jesus or some type of change of mind, then we would have still been running around this hamster wheel of hates, honestly. And it's so interesting to me, like when we saw at the cemetery Lance praying and like questioning like what would Mia do, but specifically within the prayer, this time we get to see him praying for God to change him, versus in previous episodes he was praying for God to change LJ, change their mind, change their heart, help them get clear. And it's like, they aren't the one with the problem. They are not the one who's struggling. They are not the issue here. You are actually the issue. So the fact that he was able to come to that before actually getting the chance to, you know, see, and then, you know, being stressed by bodies turning up down by where there are a bunch of other queer people who might congregate within the city, and calling the police and having to answer tough questions, like having to go through all the stress of that, and then LJ is actually okay. That does create, I think, a really good full circle, cool end to that particular storyline and that particular arc. It did a little bit feel like all of a sudden Lance got his shit together, but I also wanted him to have his shit together from the beginning. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna be mad about the amount of time it took for him to do that. And then again, he is, you know, stressing for quite a bit of time. He's like running lights and like listening on his police scanner and just so worried. And I'm just like, where was this energy from the very beginning? I don't understand parents who jump through hoops to dismiss, belittle, and disrespect their children simply for being existing. And then it takes all of this, sometimes takes worse, for them to realize at the end of the day, they don't even really care about any of that other stuff. They only care about their child living and being, and hopefully being happy. But it takes all of the rigmarole and the ignorance before we can even get there. And that's literally the story that we got to see with Lance. And not for nothing, I do believe that this was the strongest storyline for him of the entire series. Because even at the start of this season, I was not paying Lance no mind. Like, him hoeing and forgetting about his kids in the episode 1, like, if he would not have said, do you think I want to come here and see everybody be happy and see all of the things that I have lost, I would have went through the rest of watching all of the other episodes and just acted like Lance didn't even exist. Because everything about him is so surface. And like, yes, he's the NFL player who made it big, went to college, made it big to the pros, found a bomb wife that he thought was pure, and he's all in his little macho man bag or whatever. Struggles with the whole thing around her and Harper, which I completely get. I ain't gonna take that away from you, sir. That's a lot. But you also was doing a lot because you was running through any and everything that moved. Be clear. And then, you know, he did a good job of being there for her in the best man holiday as we are seeing this transition happen. But again, there was just never really anything to Lance. He was always entitled. He always believed his own hype and that his sh don't stink. And even his tie to the Lord sometimes gave off very performative. So to me, the storyline with him and LJ was probably the saving grace for his character to be of any substance in the entire storyline. And y'all can let me know what y'all think about that, and if I actually explained that correctly, because it feels like I just said a bunch, but I don't know if I really got across what I wanted to say. Let me know in the comment section down below if y'all feel me. Murch and Candace really fall into the supportive roles in this episode, and they really take a back seat. There's not much happening with them as a couple because we pretty much got the resolution for what their biggest issues and conflict were this season within episodes 6 and 7. Like discovering that Murch is doing MMA, her revealing that Professor Temple actually touched her, and them coming to a place of like deciding that they're going to be 100% honest with each other and support each other differently and love each other differently and just be extremely communicative was what would typically be in a season finale specifically for their character, or even a series finale for this character. Murch's, to me, biggest standout was in the moment where Robyn bursts in to Quentin and Shelby's house, and her and Harper have their little moment, which we're definitely going to go ahead and get into. Murch actually says, every time you have a chance to choose yourself over doing the right thing, you always choose yourself. And I think that this was really great for Murch's character, especially with this being like the final chapter of this entire story, because ultimately Murch has struggled solo in finding his voice in addition to his place amongst his friends and within society. And his whole storyline with the whole MMA thing was him trying to take back power that he feels like was taken from him by the world, particularly spurred by his moment with the Karen. So I thought it was really dope, one, the dialogue that they chose to have him say, and that he was able to confront Harper in this moment in this way, even though it wasn't something specific for him, which I did at some point want him to be able to sit and like not be Quentin to say, yo, Harper really hurt by your book, or Lance to say anything, but like Murch to be like, yo, I feel a way because this is how you see me, X, Y, and Z. And we don't really get that, but in this one line we're really getting all the layers of that. He's not only standing up for Robyn in this moment, but also himself, and then also how he has seen Harper manifest over many years. And I honestly don't disagree. Harper has been a character who 100% chooses himself, and where he gets dangerous is when he starts to find ways to validate his choices as if they're for anybody else other than himself, because then you start to add in the gaslighting part of the picture, which is very annoying. So we get Murch saying that to like double down and drive it home in this very real moment where it seems like everybody is ganging up on on Harper after Robyn storms in pissed about the countersuit for custody, which again we're gonna talk about in more depth, but that's basically it. And I think that if they were going to give Murch very little, then it makes sense that this is one of his last lines of the entire series, because it's one of the strongest ones that tie to so much, and specifically his journey with this group, but then also across from this character who has been very antagonistic for his life, Harper. And Candace, the only thing that I would probably want to see that we also didn't get to see is like what happens for her, because not for nothing, Robyn was like her girl within this group. Like, yes, we got to see them come together and do this fake book club, not fake, they were actually doing a book club, and like find some type of camaraderie and friendship amongst each other. But how Jordan was so very quick to go ahead and kiss and do whatever she did with Harper tells me that she wasn't actually Robyn's friend. And it could also be that it was still very much so Robyn and Candace, and then Jordan and Shelby on one side. So I'm like wondering, how does Candace feel now that Robyn is moving to Ghana, and her other girl within this group that kind of made it a little bit more bearable for her to enter this group How does she feel? Where does she feel like she fits? And yes, at the very end, we get to see all of them there supporting Harper with his new book. But it's not really, we don't really get a clean sum up of like, this is what it looks like for Candace moving forward. We know that Murch has now found his voice, is not afraid to tell anybody anything, and could also punch you if you ain't hear him the first time. But we don't actually know what this means for Candace specifically within this friend group, even though we do get to see what her trajectory is. She goes on to speak on the violation that she experienced by the hands of her professor, and then she goes on to advocate for other women and women placed in the position that she was placed in. But again, we don't get a clear understanding of what it looks like for her within this friend group moving forward. And she was the only other outsider besides Robyn who leaves. Now, Shelby and Q, my favorite parts of this entire season. They were not my faves in the first 2 movies, but they are literally my faves, and I kind of feel like the series will make them my faves for the entire storyline after what we got to see in this series. I am totally here for it. I had no idea. I was completely caught off guard by what we got with Shelby and Q in this limited series, but I'm pleasantly surprised, and I just adore it. Like, I feel like it's wild to me, but it's really dope that Shelby and Q wind up being what is the prototype marriage and the healthiest marriage. It's not without any struggles, it's not without moments of contention, it's not without fights, but I feel like even when put up next to Candace and Murch, that Q and Shelby have the healthiest, strongest marriage, which is wild, because Shelby, you spent 10 years and didn't tell this man that y'all have a child together. You broke up his wedding that he wasn't supposed to have anyway. Like, there's a lot that has happened between y'all. Like, you're technically the homeboy's ex. And then y'all found out that y'all wound up being like wildly compatible and 100% perfect for each other, and then deeply in love. Watching Q as a character, honestly, and his capacity for love expand by way of like Shelby, and specifically when he thought that he was about to lose her and what that actually looks like, and then the season that he's in this marriage, I think is like really dope, and it's something that's very nuanced, so I think a lot of people are going to miss it, but I ain't miss it because y'all know I love like that. But in this episode, they really just have a moment where Q reaffirms that he wants to be with her. He's been acting a little pissy and weird because he don't want to tiptoe through life, guarding himself and not eating food that he feels like is good and flavorful, and not smoking his cigars and not drinking just so that he can have a couple extra lives. He wants a couple extra years to live. He wants to just go out swinging and have sex, eat well, do all the things that he's doing now. Yes, be a little bit more mindful and maybe add a little bit of moderation, but Shelby was coming with the whip and the strictness of like, yeah, so you literally just had a mild heart attack and I'm gonna need you to be around because I love your ass that much. So we're eating like bull chicken and asparagus, and that's it, that's all. I don't want to hear that and I loved it so much. But Quentin ain't love it, y'all. He felt disenfranchised. He didn't feel empowered. He definitely didn't feel like the man of the household or the family or whatever, and it caused him to be in like a pissy mood coming into this chapter 8, so much so that we start to get a little bit of like points to like they might not make it, even though I didn't believe that. Him storming up the steps talking about something he don't want to be with her and maybe she the problem. I'm like, boy, if you don't get out of somebody's face before she had to slap the shit out you, because what you're not going to do is play like I'm not the best thing that ever happened to you. That's what you're not gonna do. Shelby is 100% the best thing that ever happened to you, your daddy, your whole bloodline. Aside from her not telling you that your daughter is your daughter, we all make mistakes. Mama's that girl. So I didn't actually believe that he was gonna like really leave her, but that's what he was trying to kind of like alluding to. So in this episode, we get to see him actually doubling back and realizing how wrong he was, and they are able to honestly just communicate and do so beautifully and with so much love. Actually, I'm about to rewatch this little moment of the scene real quick because I just really enjoy watching Shelby and Q, like in the same moments of him coming clean about, you know, the health scare being scary and feeling limited and all of that. She also is coming to a point of like, all right, and I'm about to stop jumping through hoops to try to preserve my youth. If I'm about to be in menopause, and I'm about to be in menopause, you love me regardless, I love me regardless, we still have a very nice life and family, a little raggedy daughter that just wants to spend up all our money, but you know, that's how life go. So we're gonna go ahead and do it. And I think that we get a really cool resolution for them in this episode, but not for nothing, that resolution came when he got on one knee, honestly. Like, that could have wound up being them at the season finale. I feel like it's all cherry on top and whipped cream and nuts and like syrup and everything, just being able to see exactly how amazing their wedding, or not their wedding, just how amazing their marriage has been and will probably continue to be. So with us getting this scene of them coming, you know, clean to one another and just being very open and vulnerable about what it is and what it ain't, is really just us being reaffirmed of like how great their marriage is and how great their marriage will continue to be, and they're in the right place. These are two characters who I believe 110% have changed. They're not who we met when we first met them in the first Best Man movie. And I love that for the audience. And I also love that for them as characters. Candace and Murch, I don't necessarily know if I feel like Candace has changed, but she didn't really have a ton of changing to do. I do feel like Murch has changed a little bit, and in the ways that he needed to. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. So right now we got about 3 changes in a neutral. And then we're about to walk into the dark side. Okay, y'all. Now we're going to talk about the terrible trifecta. Robyn starts this episode off as literally the definition of when a woman's fed up. There is nothing that you can do about it. There's moments that we get to see her crying when Mia comes in after looking for Harper in the house, and she's laying in the bed. And I think that she knew in this moment, this was it. She done. After saying like, oh, your daddy's gonna cook you pancakes or whatever in the morning. Nope. This ain't happening. I'm done. We're out of it. But what I did really respect about Robyn is that when the news came that LJ was missing, she did not hesitate to show up and be a part of this family, this group, even though they all have been trifling. Like, I get it, this is Harper's wife, but to me, just how Jordan moved, it's very clear that this woman was never really accepted. So for her to show up and to be cooking and to be, her mama is asking about LJ and how everybody is doing, and she's in the midst of knowing that she needs to walk away from this man, and like they shooting Darth Vader death stares at each other and everything like that. I'm like, yo, you're special kind of strong. So I'm gonna give her credit for that. And actually, let me just go ahead and be very clear. Was Robyn right for popping up at this deposition regarding custody or finalizing their divorce or whatever and saying that she's moving to Ghana with the baby? No, absolutely the hell not. Girl, what was you thinking? You do not do that. However, I do understand why she did it, and I do understand the thought process that she had leading into the decision to actually do it. Shit gets real when you're married to a narcissist, y'all. And no, I have never been married to a narcissist, but I'm using my big girl brain, and I could imagine. And then even what I could imagine is probably way worse. Y'all, Harper is a menace. Yes, he's fine. Yes, he's successful, but he's also an emotionally inequipped, inept, narcissistic, shallow menace. And that's what she married. As a free-flowing, love the earth, build a community hippie. Y'all were never gonna work. Y'all were never supposed to work. I don't even understand how y'all made it to where y'all were at in the first film. Aside from like you saying yes to marry this man, how did y'all get into that bathtub with them rose petals together? Because he was worse then. And you were just as free flowing. Anyway, in this episode, Robyn goes through quite a few extremes, and I know there's a lot of people that are on her head. However, I definitely think that mama did the best that she could with what she had, and she hung on for as long as womanly possible with that man, and we got to go ahead and give her credit for that. She knows something's going on. She read the piece that Harper wrote, which is basically him writing about Jordan, which I believe happened after they had their little rendezvous after his premiere, where they're kissing all on each other, and God knows what else happens before they show up at the hospital to actually support Q. She read that and still showed up and was around this hoe, around your friends who have probably covered for you at any given point. Like, the amount, like, I just couldn't imagine. So when Robyn storms into Shelby and Quentin's house in this episode, and she's losing it behind, how dare you attempt to file for sole custody behind my back, or partial custody, to try to stop me from moving. That wasn't just about stopping her from moving. It was also a how dare you for all of the other things. Because Robyn has taken so much on the chin and just kept it moving out of the sake of, like, I love this man, out of the sake of he's getting better, out of the sake of what we could build, out of the sake of we have a child together. And, like, let's not act like that's not a thing that women choose every single day. There's so many things that women take on the chin, or they instantly forgive because we have a child together. Yeah, no. That ain't gonna be able to work for me. So yes, I do think that the scene with her busting in and cussing Harper out and calling him all types of codes. Hilarious. Very dramatic. I'm gonna go ahead and sit on the fence of whether it was called for or not, because I do believe that it was deeply steeped in more than just him filing for partial custody or mutual custody. Or did he file for full custody? I don't damn know. I thought that the fight was freaking brilliant. Like, him trying to come back and call her fake African pursuits and Kente this and that. It's like, I get it, but it's also not really landing, because she's been this girl. She's been this earth girl. She's been this Aries. She's been this hippie. She's been, all I want to do is, like, grow food and cook for homeless people or houseless people. Like, she's been this girl, and you have been this, oh, I want to be important. I want to be James Baldwin. I want to make a bunch of money. I want to move to $1 million brownstone around a bunch of people who don't like me and don't want to be like Harper. It's the most powerful scene for me, though, with her, even next to the volatile moment of her busting in and cussing Harper out, which I thought was also kind of brilliant in that she never gets to that point. We have never seen her revolt, basically, and that's just the word that came up. I don't know why I'm using that word, but that word is sticking out for me. Like, this is kind of like her revolt for this bullshit marriage that she has been in for the last 20 years, his lackluster love and support, his not fully seeing and appreciating her. Like, this is her revolting. And while Africa is very far, and I get the concern of, like, yo, you about to take this child to a whole other continent, not even like out of the home with the father, but to a whole other continent, making it completely, utterly difficult to maintain his presence in her life. That is definitely a problem. But I could understand, again, how she got there, given all that she had endured over the course of 20 years. This move to Ghana was not just, I'm trying to get out of this marriage and I'm trying to take Mia from Harper. This was also like, I'm going to finally choose something for me, because I've spent the last 20 years backseating myself for a man who ain't never happy. Like, that's the worst part about it. It's like, it's one thing if your soul dies a little bit every time you sacrifice a piece of yourself because the person that you love will be happy if you do something, so you do it. That's one thing. But if you do it and you sacrifice that piece of your soul and that person is still not happy, so it very much so gives, I just gave up this piece of my soul for nothing and I've been doing it repeatedly for 20 years. Oh yeah, now we need to fight. Honestly, now we need to fight, because how dare you? And that's what I saw in that whole her storming into the to the penthouse. And I think that also is reaffirmed by people backing her up. No, it's not necessarily the best that she about to run away to Ghana with the baby. However, Harper, you're selfish. The way that you're moving about things is selfish. The way that you're reacting is selfish. Shelby was right. I mean, Shelby, you should have also told Quentin about that damn baby. But Shelby was also right. Murch was also right. And they both get in his what is wild to me, what is absolutely wild to me, is the audacity that Jordan has to stand up for her man in that moment. Jordan, go to hell. Y'all, before I get on to Jordan Armstrong, like real heavy, I gotta also make this note because I was about to touch on it, then I got distracted. So the strongest scene for me with Robyn wasn't her storming in the argument at the penthouse. It was Robyn putting the keys to the brownstone on that counter, really looking around once more before leaving, because it felt like she was confirming with herself that the decision to walk out of this life and hopefully walk into a more happy life, a life that has more autonomous choices for herself, more joy, more support, is the right thing to do. And I can't help but want that for her myself. I literally wrote this, y'all, so I gotta make sure I say it. It's not an easy decision, but it was definitely a necessary one, and it's no amount of Mia crying or Harper begging that will change that. Just like she knows that Harper will never change in the ways that she would need him to, for her to have enough space within their marriage to actually be fulfilled and loved, which I think is the point that people need to catch. Like, Harper decided that at the tail end of like, I can change and I want you to stay and we could do better, and begging. It's like, no, the ship has sailed. You're never going to be who I need you to be, which is important. Aside from her not being a boss bitch, in reference to like leading a charge and being visually out there as a branded boss bitch, Robyn gave everything to Harper that he actually needed. She supported him, she picked him up, she like allowed for his insecurities and all of that to like flow without her actually intimidating him. I'm going to do a video about Harper and Jordan specifically, and if they actually will work out together, because I think it's not as easy as them having chemistry and wanting to bump uglies with each other this entire time. But Robyn gave Harper everything that he needed in a relationship. He did not give her everything that she needed. And I think that that's important, and it's specifically important because that seems to be the norm for society, like real life society. People think that women need to stay in relationships where they're completely unyoked and unfulfilled if they're in a relationship where their man is fine. And it's a hell no for me. All right, now moving on to Miss Armstrong, who is the silent menace. It's like, girl, we were rooting for you. You look like Nia Long. How could you do this to us? The fact that she in this season gets to a point where she is kissing all up on Harper and wanting to bump uglies with him, but also still playing good friend to Robyn, it's disgusting. It's truly disgusting. And it's this type of scenarios that make people question the best friend and make people question if women and men can actually be platonic real friends in real life. Because look at what, like, girl, it's very much so giving you was waiting in the wing. And honestly, I think I'm most disappointed in Jordan's character at the end of this series, because I don't want her to be waiting for Harper, and that's what I'm left with. I don't think they actually wind up together. I feel like she's in the wings supporting him in the audience as she always has been, and is still waiting on him. Regardless of her and him walking along this waterfront in New York and talking about what's next for them, and that he needs to go ahead and take time after his divorce, and she can't wait on him, but she's still waiting on him, and she's been waiting on him, and I hate that for her. For her to be such this boss, for her to be this woman who was in charge, who was intelligent, who was commanding, who was a leader, who is that girl, and for her to spend decades, y'all, decades of her life being the complete opposite in her personal life concerns me. Because it's one thing to spend like your 20s in that space and like you're not really sure, you're very insecure and you bossing up in business, but then personally you don't really know. And then the boy that likes you, he's with this other girl, and then okay, cool. But then you also spend your 30s there and you also spend your 40s there. Like, ma'am, what is actually happening? And again, like I said at the start of this video, Harper and Jordan literally arrive at the place that we meet them at in the first movie at the end of this film, and it's the most annoying thing ever for them to be the crux of this entire story. It's ridiculous. They don't end up together. They still want to bump uglies with each other. Harper is getting this faux acclaim that he wants with this Reconstruction era version of Unfinished Business, because it's still very much so a little soap opera based on your life or your life adjacent that you just happen to do a little bit of history research on, and you put it in like the 1930s or 40s, and now all of a sudden it's getting critical acclaim. And we supposed to root for Robyn deciding to get up randomly in a meeting and walk out and quit her job and now become a consultant and more free. Free to do what? She ain't adopting. She ain't pursuing fertility treatments. She's not pursuing additional love. She's communicating that she's not waiting on Harper. But also, girl, what are you doing? Nothing about her little sachet in this red suit out of this building to freedom, but then also to nothing waiting on her, gave resolve, gave I want to root for it. It gave confusion, and then the confusion was doubled down on when we get to cut to the very end and she's sitting up in them wings clapping for Harper, still with no man by her side. And no, I'm not saying that a woman has to have a man by her side to actually be fulfilled or to show true success or any of that. So be very, very clear. For a woman who has said in every version of this story, film and television, that she wants love, she wants a family, and we even in this episode get to see her cry about her last chance to have a child, even if it was going to be an unexpected surprise of a child, to arrive at the very end, and she still don't have any of that. What exactly do y'all want us to clap for? She is literally at the exact same place. But what I will say is that scene with her and Lance in the car after she gets the call from her doctor letting her know that she is not pregnant, and we do get to see her cry about it, is one of the most powerful moments that we have seen for her character in the entire story that is the Tales of Best Man. It was amazing. Seeing her mixture of emotions of like sadness and relief felt very relatable. And I love the dialogue about how it would be nice to take a ride in which she had no control and she had no plan, because her life up until now had been going exactly according to plan. She talks about how she was just so ready to not be in control, and she felt like this was her last chance to be a mom. And she again talks about how she lived her life exactly how she planned it, but she was kind of like hoping with this opportunity presenting itself. So we arrive at the very end of The Best Man with Jordan seemingly having nothing that she actually wants. Because girl, you have been a successful executive since we met you in your 20s. You have been moving and shaking in Hollywood since then. And yes, you have taken additional steps to further acclaim and to leading the network and all of that. But like, you are already that girl in this regard. You low-key wish you could have a baby and you not having a baby. Okay. You want to be married. You want to be like Murch and Candace. You want to be like Shelby and Q, but you don't have that. You also want Harper. And you don't get that either. Like, yes, Jordan was the most disappointing thing for me in watching it. And it's crazy because the package looks so great. Like, she looks amazing. Her life looks amazing. And it's given unfulfilled for the rest of her days. And I hate that for her. Now, let's head on over to Harper before... Oh, I'm already at the 40-minute mark. Great. Let's head on over to hoe ass Harper. Because yes, y'all, I'm on his head. He's the real villain. And he's been the villain from the start. The weeby glasses and the meek disposition in the beginning in the first film only could mask it but so long. He is literally the villain. Him filing for counter custody for a child that he don't even really do much with, and it takes for him to have a moment of custody or like visitation with her and take her out to the park, and you actually get to see exactly how impactful her mother is on her, for you to register like, oh wait, she really do need to be with her mom because I ain't been paying this girl no damn mind anyway. Harper, get it together, sir. I feel like Harper be wanting the most arbitrary things. He wants his daughter, and not to say that he don't love his daughter, but he wants his daughter and he gotta have custody when confronted with the idea of not being able to have her with him 100%. You are a writer. You could write from anywhere. And I said this, I don't know if it was episode 6 or 7, but when Robyn first wanted to go to Ghana and he was coming up with every excuse of why he couldn't go, I said, what does his wrist break and his fingers break as soon as he crosses the border of the continent? You are a writer. You can do that anywhere, sir. You don't want to do that. Going back to what I said about Harper picking arbitrary ass goals and wanting things, either one, because somebody tell him that he can't have it, or two, because he sees it on somebody else's plate and he just wants to try it. Like, us watching him in this season go through the whole I want to be like James Baldwin stuff, but then also have nothing but smoke for Robyn when she's protesting and fighting for her people and wanting to stay within the black community and uplift and provide food and all that. It's like, sir, what it is and what it ain't. You having writer's block and not being able to come up with something different that's not salacious or raunchy or raggedy and more impactful and intellectual and educational. You're not able to come up with those things because you're not that guy. You don't live that life. You literally spoke to wanting to be a Baldwin but doing none of the Baldwin work, not being a Baldwin man, and then you want somebody to feel bad for you about it. And crazy thing is, Robyn did. Like, Robyn literally placated to his ego at every turn when he's whining about the rewards that he's getting for work that he did, the rewards that he's not getting for work that he never did. Harper, go to hell. And I think that he deserved it. While again, the blow up at the penthouse was wildly dramatic, he needed it, y'all. They had owed him that. If nobody was gonna whip his ass again, because nobody put their hands on him after Lance almost threw him over that balcony in the first movie, then they needed to at least cuss him out. He deserved it. If not for the counter custody thing, just for Harper being Harper. In this episode, we get to see him go through a myriad of emotions when Robyn does, you know, pop up the fact that they're going to Ghana. She's selling the brownstone. And he didn't know that, which again, 100% shocker. She should not have done it in that way. He then decides to stick his guns and want to fight back for his kid and want to kind of play and tiptoe around the waters when it comes to Jordan. That's another thing. Jordan, you've been deserved better than Harper, because all he got for you is little sly remarks about how compatible y'all are and how you think the exact same way as him, but he never fully shoots his shot. He never really comes hard as you deserve a man to come hard for you. And he literally, for me, it gives very much so he dangles the bait of himself in front of you and like enjoys watching you squirm about just wanting it, wanting to get a bite. And again, absolutely no, ma'am. I really need to make this video about Harper and Robyn, because I mean Harper and Jordan, because they are hell no. They would never make it, y'all. Whether they wanted to bump ugly since high school, I mean since college or not, they were never gonna make it. Harper deserves to be exactly where he is at the end of this series, and that is damn alone and mildly successful, I guess. What else is this man doing in this episode? I touched on this a little bit when I was talking about Robyn, but he has a moment where he's like, I don't want to get divorced anymore. I will change. I want you to be here. Blah, 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 blah. And Robyn's like, yeah, pick another sucker, dummy. And they are gone off. And then that creates the scene where, you know, a very depressed and down Harper is at the brownstone when the guys come over, and there's not a bit of dialogue exchange, but they come over and they set up for their game night, and they basically coax him over to join them without saying much of nothing, which really just solidifies and shows their bond as friends and their support of one another, and that we are ending it, at least with this friend group, of them all being at a place where if they don't have anything else, they have each other. So I did enjoy watching that happen. Maybe I'd just be wanting Harper to suffer, but I was about to say he low-key didn't even deserve that, but we're here. Y'all, how Jordan and Harper did Robyn was messed up. Whether y'all think that Robyn is raggedy or not, that was messed up. My thing is, when it comes to Jordan and Harper, if y'all wanted to bump uglies this bad and be together, why didn't y'all try to be together? So that over the course of these last 20 years, y'all could have gotten together, realized that you were never going to work, and then just went on about your way. No, y'all did not have to involve this lovely little hippie lady that just wants to cook and like free her people into y'all turmoil and strife at all. I think that's it. Because the rest of all I would have to say about Harper would just continue to read him, which I can do in the comment section. So let me know in the comment section, what did you think about episode number 8, chapter 8 of The Best Man, the final chapters, the limited series on Peacock. Reiterating what I said at the top of this series, or at the top of this video, I don't believe that they're finished. And I would not be surprised, y'all, if they come back for another installment of these chapters, because the way that they ended, it didn't to me actually feel like an end, which I wouldn't be mad at. I do not have a problem with the Best Man characters being the show where we just get to watch black people live and it's not a reality show. I would be totally here for it. Would you? If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss any of my other hot videos, because I only got a couple of Best Man ideas, which will be a review of the entire story, both films in this limited series, a conversation about Harper and Jordan, and then a conversation about Shelby and Q, which will be, I guess, 3 more Best Man videos coming before there's not really much to talk about unless they surprise announce that, guess what? We're going to come back for another limited year. Anywho, I cannot wait to see what y'all think in the comment section down below. Episodes 1 through 7 are also already up on the channel, so if you missed any of those, feel free to check those out. I'll have the playlist link for you right here. Hit the like button because you made it all the way to the end of this video, so I know that you liked it, and I will see you in the next video.